how we like to start this show by talking about some interesting things that have happened this week, or maybe something where if this is the wide variety of shit we're talking about, this is, I don't know what.
It's a $5 footlong worth of shit.
Normally I try to pick something close or adjacent to it. Well, I don't think that we have that opportunity this week. So, outside of Reddit, did you see two, for me, big pieces of news surrounding HBO and Disney this week?
There's stuff going on outside of Reddit?
Oh, yeah, apparently. I think
No.
The rest of the world had no idea that other shit was happening.
No, what was going on?
Okay, so I told you about one of them, and I'm really excited about it. I'm super passionate about this, but HBO has not announced, but has put feelers out for authors. Scott's laughing because Bandit is just like all up in everything right now. He's just all over it. HBO put out references or feelers for authors is the wrong, writers, to potentially write a new Harry Potter TV series, Game of Thrones style. When I say Harry Potter, I don't specifically mean that character, but a story written around the wizarding world. And for me, I am excited. If anybody has been able to build out universes, Disney has kind of taken the cake. Got the MCU, you've got Star Wars.
That's it. That's all they got. That's all they've ever done.
Well, I mean, they're bigger than anything. So they have those two universes. This is HBO, Universal's chance. Warner Brothers? HBO and Warner Brothers. It's their chance to say, I want
Warner
a piece
Brothers.
of those billions. Disney countered.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And said, you know what else would be interesting? We're going to release a series on Disney Plus following a young Jack Sparrow of Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, okay. All right.
How exciting does that sound?
It's super interesting because it's just like genres at this point.
Yeah.
We've got Star Wars, we've got superheroes. Warner Brothers is like, well, what properties do we own? Oh, we got Harry Potter. So like, we'll just start the wizarding universe.
Uh-huh.
And Disney, not to be outdone, is like, well, tell you what, you can have that. We're going to take all pirates everywhere.
All of them. We have space pirates and water pirates. We need land pirates.
Yeah, I think HBO might, or Warner Brothers might still own the rights to Waterworld, so that'll be interesting once they decide to go there. But
there's a type of pirate we're missing, butt pirates.
Welcome to the Front Podcast of the Internet. I'm your host and current Diamond Hand, Scott Gurrola, and with me always is my co-host,
Willy Mattson. And if you are looking for somebody to align with who also doesn't understand what the fuck is happening right now, that's me. I'm your guy. Because today, when we titled this show, there's a sub for that. Hey, Wall Street, there's a sub for that. And today, we are going to take a little bit of a break away from the rest of Reddit, because if you were on the platform this week, that's it. That's all you got. There wasn't anything else. If you think there was, you just blacked out, because all there was this week was Wallstreetbets.
prior to us actually sitting down and recording, Willy, we had a plan to tackle the behemoth that is Reddit, because we figured every single week we would have something new and different to talk about. Mm-hmm. This week, if you look at the top 10, top 25, top 50 posts for what was popular, it is all financial, Wall Street, GameStop, whatever related. We had no choice but to talk about this topic this week.
And just in case you were wondering if we're lying or not, here are the top posts by subreddit. Top 5. Wallstreetbets, Wallstreetbets, Wallstreetbets. Picks, but it's not really Wall Street bets, Wall Street bets, Wall Street bets, Wall Street bets, memes, but also not really.
Yeah. Willie said top 5, but he kept going. And I thought I was bad at math.
I can be bad at counting. That you can separate those two from math and counting, right? That's why we have calculators. Oh God.
Oh, but speaking of accounting, Willie, let's just begin at the top. Last week,
Make it drop, Scott.
We titled our podcast Wall Street Bets because we thought it was kind of just an emerging trend. But like the Bernie meme, like
we
anything,
thought that was bigger. Of course we thought that was bigger.
Yeah. Yeah, we thought Bernie meme was going to be something that was still going. Nope. It got wiped out quicker than all of those shorts from Melvin Capital.
I don't know what that means. So I think before we get started, one, we need to acknowledge that there's plenty of incorrect information we had in the last episode. And I don't even think, unless you know of all those things, I don't think there's a way for us to correct everything outside of saying, one, we're not financial advisors, and two, we're fucking idiots. We're going to get this stuff wrong. This isn't researched information before we go into it. We speak on behalf of all Redditors out there, which is to hope that we're not as dumb as Republicans. Just kidding.
But we try to stay upvoted. We don't like to get downvoted to hell. But yeah, so last week when I brought up the topic, my knowledge base was small, and I would say that changed monumentally this
like
week.
8 inches.
Yep, that's what I was packing, and this week it just became a raging, longer than 4 hours, have to call my doctor knowledge base that will go down in history as probably one of the biggest events of 2021. Willie, this year has started off so crazy, but I apologize for last week's inconsistencies. I am man enough to say I didn't know what I was talking about, and I was thankfully spanked ever so hard this week with a bastion of information that I had never planned on ingesting, probably at least for the next few years. You know, this was the stuff I was probably going to look into a decade from now when I had more money. But
right.
Holy cow. You mentioned at the beginning, you kind of didn't know what was going on. Do you want to hear a little story about what short selling is?
Yes. And that's one of the things that I was going to ask is I've reached out to friends and people and tried to discover what the hell a short selling or what that is and why it's even allowed. And as I've read into something or watched a YouTube video, I thought I understood it. I tried to explain it to somebody, and then they would say, "What the fuck are you talking about?" So I clearly don't understand it. And I think you have an analogy that can help. So top of the episode, can you help people understand what that is?
Yes, absolutely. It's the whole reason this week happened, because a bunch of hedge funds, and I don't know if we need to explain hedge funds in all that depth, but it's basically a bunch of people with a lot of money that like to play the stock market like it was a game. So I found a post from another fellow Redditor.
Okay.
The post was titled, "If your friends and family are wondering why you're buying GME at $300, maybe you can explain it to them like this. Buckle up, kids. We're about to go for a deep dive into what short selling is." So, Willie, there's a rich kid in town. Let's call him Melvin. He thinks he's really smart. He finds a coupon for $20 off a new Nintendo Switch during the holidays with no limit on the number of units. This is easy.
A coupon for what?
$20 off a new Nintendo Switch. Brand new. Brand spanking new. Still in the packaging. Got the stickers and the plastic wrap on it. What he decides to do is he is going to go ahead and sell that Switch now for $200 and then buy it for $180 with the coupon. Easiest $20
he's selling it to
he'll
just
ever make.
random people in this analogy.
He goes and tells his parents' friends at the Citadel Country Club that he can get them a new Nintendo Switch for their kids this holiday season. He collects $200 each from 150 different parents. So he now has $30,000, and he'll use that money to purchase the Nintendo Switches for $27,000 after the coupon savings. He'll have earned $3,000 in just a few hours, and his parents will be so proud. Now, there's another kid watching Melvin this entire time. Let's call him Keith.
Do we like Keith?
We like Keith.
Okay. Keith is that Banff.
You could say
Melvin
that
can go fuck himself, Ted Cruz.
You could say that Keith has some deep fucking value built into him. Catch my drift?
No.
All right.
No idea.
Don't worry, we'll get to it. Just follow along.
Okay.
Keith doesn't like Melvin, and Keith is good friends with the guys at Gamestop. He finds out that there were only 100 total new Switches shipped in the entire country. Keith and his 99 friends buy all 100 new Nintendo Switches on the spot. They just buy them. Later in the day, when Melvin goes to GameStop with his $20 off coupon and says, "I will take 150 Nintendo Switches, please," GameStop looks at him and says, "Sorry, we're all sold out." He goes to all the GameStops in every single city all across the United States, and he can't find a single Switch. He will not be able to fulfill the orders that he has taken. Meanwhile, Keith is telling all of his friends about what Melvin promised the members at the country club. He tells them, whatever you do, do not sell him the Nintendo Switch that you bought, no matter how much money he offers you. Because nobody likes Melvin, so everybody holds on to their Nintendo Switch. Now Melvin is in trouble. His parents' rich friends are all asking when they're going to get their Nintendo Switch. Melvin's parents are angry, but they don't want to lose their standing at the Citadel Country Club. They have to help Melvin get 150 Nintendo Switches. Now remember that there are only 100 total Nintendo Switches, but Melvin has created the expectation among the parents that there are 150. This is how you get a short percentage over 100%. Melvin has promised more than actually exist. The price of Nintendo Switches in the city skyrockets. Melvin's parents are able to get a few units from Keith's friends, but they had to pay them really inflated prices, like $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. It's nearing Christmas, and every rich parent at the country club is desperate for this Nintendo Switch they promised their kids. They can't trust that Melvin will be able to get them one. They all start bidding against each other for other Switches. Everybody in town is now in on the action. Everybody wants to get a Nintendo Switch to sell at the country club. The highest price right now is $10,000. Meanwhile, Keith and his friends are just hanging out and playing Animal Crossing.
sitting on their one or two.
They're Nintendo Switches that are worth infinitely more than they bought them at. And that is what happened with the GameStop sock.
Okay, I have some questions. And I'm hoping you have the answers. If you don't have the answers, I understand. This can also be outreach, or we can do a little research. So when Melvin, or the hedge fund brokers in this analogy, when they borrowed that money, that was with the promise that they would pay them back. What are the real world repercussions to a hedge fund saying, I'm going to buy 150% or this in excess value?
Melvin told their clients that they would sell them a stock at a certain price.
Okay.
Just like Melvin told the country club parents that he would sell them a Nintendo Switch at a certain price.
Does that mean that...
But
is there a time limit? Is there like a contract that is signed that
Yes, there is a time limit. So they're doing options trading, which is puts and calls. Puts and calls is the bet on whether the stock is going to go up or the stock is going to go down. Short sellers have traditionally bought a bunch of these options with the bet that the stock price would go down. And there's many ways to manipulate that. You can look up Jim Cramer's old old footage, and he tells basically how he's manipulated the market.
And all technically legal, correct?
Correct. And from what I've gleaned this week, it's that a lot of these hedge funds are doing this because there isn't a lot of regulation for this type of trading. So they're doing everything within the confines of the law. However, they're screwing a lot of people over because when you short sell a stock, you're trying to drive the price down. Think about the company that is a publicly traded company. If you have shareholders, what do you want your stock to do? You only want it to go up.
Right.
So if
how
some
does the
hedge
value
fund
then
asshole
go down?
So if your some hedge fund asshole is driving your stock price down, manipulating it legally,
and this could be through what, like a disparaging article about the company?
No.
How are
it's
they
all done financially? And this is where it gets muddy for me as somebody who is not a financial advisor. But essentially, they make it look like the stock is not worth as much as it could be, just with numbers, just with how they're buying it and how they're trading it.
Right. So you're seeing, and I'll try to put a graphic up here for us, but what you're seeing is if you've ever seen one of those graphs where you have like the thick bar with like a line above it and maybe a smaller version of it, right? There's that billboard that went around. It's the top post of the week where the guy bought a billboard in New York, in Wall Street, and it essentially, you see these little like bars, these green bars and red bars that are going up with lines above and below. That's price with a kind of a mean, average, and median in there, correct? That's what that's showing. There are specific things, this is probably super wrong, but people that follow stocks and potentially do day trading or work for these hedge funds are looking at how that chart is moving, and at specific algorithms, it would indicate based on the math that the stock is going to go up or go down. So when you say manipulating, you're specifically saying they're trying to sell off funds or move things around so that they can get the algorithm to show a certain percentage, thereby manipulating that trend to actually happen, correct?
Yeah, right. I mean, when you hear the word manipulation, there's negative connotations with it, but it's what it is, and it's perfectly legal. Everything that they've been doing, on the surface at least, there could be some things going on behind the scenes that violate SEC regulations that we don't know about. But a lot of people are calling for investigations into these types of short sales that have happened in the past week and prior. It's blown up really big.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the ramifications we've seen so far that have created such a David versus Goliath stronghold is really what we're seeing. Let's talk about a few of those things that have been fueling this to go further. And then I want to talk about where we're sitting at right now. As the community of Wallstreetbets said, hey, we're going to hold on to this, and media coverage saw it, and hedge fund people put out advertisements, and different media outlets started to cover it as these guys are bad. That's when mom and dad started hearing about it. Well, other companies that are really meant to be there in support of us, there's a term for us.
We are called retail investors.
Right. Okay. So for us retail investors, a company by the name of Robinhood is meant to be there for us. It is an app that you can get on your phone, which they incentivize you by saying, we're going to give you one free stock at random, and it could be of any value. We're just going to give it to you. And
I did that.
Yeah, me too. I got a share of, fuck if I know.
I got a share of American Steel.
My value of the price as of earlier this week was like $9.95. What Robinhood did, this is from a gentleman named FaZe Banks, who is a pretty big, well-known video game player turned social media influencer. All of that BS.
From FaZe Clan?
From FaZe Clan, correct. He tweeted and said, Robinhood legitimately hid, I don't know what NOK is.
Nokia.
Nokia, AMC, GameStop, and what is NAKD?
It's Naked. It's a brand of, I don't think it's the juice. I think it's something else.
Okay.
But I could be wrong. I'll
It
look
says
it up.
Robinhood legitimately hid all of these from search. Internet Psychology 101. This will only make things worse for you, Wall Street. Things are getting blown the fuck up today. Take all your cash you can afford to lose and buy. After I heard the news that Robinhood was purposefully hiding these stocks, not letting us retail traders buy and sell, like many others, I thought that, well, that's bullshit, because these people that work for hedge funds that make billions of dollars, nothing is preventing them from buying and selling these specific stocks. You're just preventing the people who are trying to fight against them from doing that. Like many people, I sold that one share that I had, and I'm waiting for the money to go into my account so that I can close it.
Did you open up anything else to replace Robinhood?
No. My stocks right now are in E-Trade.
Sure.
Now, I know a lot of brands followed suit, but Robinhood was really the one that, even based on the name, is there for the little guy. It's in the name. And
yeah, what's their slogan? They posted on Twitter in 2016, democratize trading for the people, or some sort of like rallying cry to get people to sign up for their thing. It became the antithesis of that this week, with them removing those stocks from their trading platform, hiding them, limiting them severely. And the CEO was interviewed, I think, the day things got weird.
I always get this gentleman's name wrong. His first name, for
Vlad.
sure.
Vlad is his first name. But
he was interviewed by Chris Cuomo on CNN. What are your thoughts?
I think it was a bunch of BS. And full disclosure, I still have my Robinhood account. I used it for kind of its interface to explore, because I liked it a lot better than my E-Trade account. And so it would mostly be for research, but I had that free stock that got me like $5, and then the company was sold and bought out by somebody else. So I've kind of just been playing with that $5 in learning how to do crypto buying and
Sure.
fractional shares, because they offer that as an option as well. So last week when we were talking about this, I actually bought as much fractional shares of GameStop that I could with that $5 that I had.
Have you made any money with it?
Well, yes. As it has become the rallying cry, like, I'm going to hold on to this as much as I can for as long as this plays out. So I'm still in with Robinhood as of right now.
Okay.
I did go and download something called Public, which is another type of online trading app. And its response was a little bit better, in my opinion, because they also limited buying GameStop on the date everything went crazy. But they also like immediately went to Twitter and said, hey, the brokerage that backs us like said shut this off, and so we're like trying to get it back up and running. We don't know why they're limiting this, but we're trying to fight for you, our customer base. So like, stay with us, we'll get back to you. And eventually they did come back and let people trade again, which I thought was a better response than waiting the whole day and then in the evening giving an interview with somebody on the news.
Do you have a number? I'm seeing here in Wallstreetbets a post that was titled, "That's What I Thought." And it's a meme from The Simpsons. Shows Bart Simpson and says, "We lost 70 billion hedge funds." Wallstreetbets as Homer Simpson. "You lost 70 billion so far." Is that roughly the amount of money that these businesses have lost?
Those are accurate numbers. And the majority of that, it sounds like, at least based on the reporting, it sounds like the majority of that was from just Melvin Capital and Citadel.
Melvin Capital was a real company. Okay, so you said name. I didn't realize that was an actual company.
Yeah, that is the hedge fund that had a bunch of shorts, and who the current hero of Wall Street Bets, Keith Gill, aka Deep Fucking Value, that's what he saw and what started this whole thing. So
Now,
yeah, those names were used on purpose in that story.
I have a few other questions regarding this. It's not off topic. It's right on topic. It's on brand, Scott. How do you think this week, this event, is going to play out in what is actually happening on Wall Street? Not to the hedge fund people, right? Because Melvin Capital is definitely going to be firing some people. They're gonna pivot. They'll do some other things. But all in all, don't kid yourself. These billionaires are going to be just fine.
Correct. And
like absolutely just fine.
The from the inside news that we've been seeing, reading, hearing, watching all week, it sounds like Melvin, when they weren't able to cover some of their stuff, like went to their other hedge fund friends and said, "Hey, let's do some trading. You can have this baseball card if you give your copy of this baseball card to the clients that I said could have it." Stuff like that. Stuff is going on behind the scenes. And you're right. Billionaire's gonna billionaire and they'll be just fine. When I started looking at Wall Street Bets, it was mostly because of some of the humorous posts had made it to the front page. And all they talked about were these options trading. So I started following them to see what options trading was all about, because it looked like they would buy these stocks at a really low price and then hope that the price would go up. Right? And so I thought it was a place where I could glean some sort of investing advice. And it turned out it's not really the place to go.
No.
If you really want to learn how to play the market. But I feel like as retail investors, learning what we know, like, can we ever really play the market like the big boys, like the hedge fund managers, when it's always seems to be tilted against the average person? And
it's like, I mean, it's adult gambling. It's real world, big business gambling. And it would be
power.
It would be as if we entered a casino and we said, "Hey, I have $100 to play with." Well, guess what? This company over here, they have $1 million to play with, but they also have an advantage. They know the dealer.
I would kind of liken it a little bit differently.
Okay, go ahead.
If I may.
I want to hear your analogy.
I would say we would go to this Las Vegas casino.
Okay.
Right? And we would bring, we saved up, we got some Christmas money, whatever. We're bringing $1,000.
Ooh, real money.
We go and we play the slots, and maybe we make a little bit of money. Maybe we make like $10,000 because we're having a good night. So we go to the high rollers table and we play there. And, maybe it comes back down, but maybe we get to leave with, we doubled our money or tripled our money. Either way, we're in the single digit $1,000. If you want to talk about hedge funds, Willy, they have their own separate casino.
Oh, got it.
And they play the same games, just in a different location with a different set of rules.
It's probably for a different show, probably for a different time. But how are they I would really like to see the inside baseball and understand what tools they're using and why they're not available to the masses.
Going back one quick second, you asked how I thought this might change Wall Street going forward. The whole point of this week, I was looking at it kind of like an exercise, and it looks like other people were as well, is that up until this point, it seemed that you could only play with these big boys if A, you had a ton of cash, B, you worked your way up into that industry through other financial ways. Like you worked on Wall Street, you eventually got hired by one of these hedge funds and then became part of that world. Part of that world. Or maybe you were the person that made the software that these companies would use to, predict the future or help them have the best odds to make money, right? Because it's all computer trading at this point, and algorithms and models predicting what's going to do what to give you the best advantage. Well, here we are, sitting in our mom's basement, We've got the latest MacBook Pro. We have a web developer friend, or not a web developer friend, but we have app developer friends all over. We don't need to pay some company hundreds of dollars for them to give us the tips and tricks anymore. People are able to use the software and technology that they have at home to be as informed as the people on Wall Street. I won't say better, because they probably don't have the depth and breadth and the knowledge and the history behind when they get into the game. However, if you worked for one of these companies, a hedge fund or something like that, and then you just came home, why couldn't you replicate it? Why couldn't you do the same exact thing with a software program that is exactly what they used?
So my predictions, my ignorant, stupid man in his parents' basement prediction, but I don't live with my parents, FYI, is a couple of things are going to happen. One, you're going to see more individuals start to really play the game. That casino just put a different set of requirements to get in. They're going to have to, right? This has opened up the world to more, or opened up Wall Street to more players.
Absolutely. And if anybody's learned anything this week, it's that anybody can play.
Because social media and the internet has enabled incredible movement of information, you're not going to be able to get away with specific things you might have done. It's kind of like when sports finally had replays. You can't get away with that shady bullshit in the background anymore, because people are going to catch on and they're going to hold you accountable. Which is the other prediction I have, is that I think this is going to dramatically change the way in which the stock market functions. And not by who plays the game, but by what's allowed. And I think we might genuinely see specific things change when it comes to doing short sales and how the big players work between one another. Things have got to change. AOC tweeted about it. A lot of other politicians. Ted Cruz agreed with her, and she agreed with Ted Cruz and then called him on his bullshit. That was pretty hilarious moment in the week. But
it was.
You have bipartisan agreement that shit's got to change. I see you shaking your head. So I think you are under the perception that these guys are too wealthy, too powerful to make that change happen. Is that what you think is?
The naive me thinks that, yes, because we have somebody like AOC in there talking on Twitter, that things could change. This could be our year. The realist in me also believes that the people in power in the current administration still have ties to the financial industry and are still well off and protected enough that no, nothing's going to happen. What they tried to do is get some sort of regulation to prevent retail level people or trading regulated. They're trying to say it's insider trading when a bunch of people go on to a message board like Reddit and tell each other what to do or share secrets.
So do we think that this is actually going to be a bad outcome for retail traders, and that there's going to be more stipulations put on the types of buying and selling power we have going forward?
You called it at the beginning that it was a David and Goliath battle. But when it comes to money, Goliath usually wins. Yes, things are going to change 100%. We just don't know. This week is going to be very telling on how much is going to be pushed back against the establishment or how much is levied onto the little guy in terms of who's going to give an inch, who's going to give a mile, who's going to get crushed. So, Willy, to wrap things up with a nice little bow, because it is still an ongoing story, right? It is still developing. We are just covering what we've seen so far. Let's talk about Keith for a second. DFV, earlier, before this week happened, had earned roughly $22 million in a year with his holdings. When things really popped off, it went up to about $50 million.
$30% more. Jesus.
In one day. And then the next day.
Terrible math.
Still.
Yeah.
You get it at home. A lot more. The next day, when the regulations and everything hit and people started pushing back, it went back down to 30 million. So he lost an entire year's worth of earnings in one day. But here's the thing, Willie. He's still in. That's become the rallying cry of the Wallstreetbets subreddit. If he's in, I'm in. So much like Mr. Diamond Hands, let's just hold on this topic and see what happens next week, where maybe we'll get to get outside of Inside Baseball and go back to our original programming.
I hope that I can be the soapbox for all of you when I say I don't care about Wall Street. Scott has tried really hard to get me to invest, to learn about trading stocks, and inevitably, like happened to me with politics, I will inevitably find interest and dedicate some time and some energy to really understanding this. But right now, like probably a lot of you, I don't give a shit. But we are a show about Reddit, and this was all consuming. To me, the thing that I take away the most from this is that we have an incredible influence in the structure of how the world, the economy, the social influence works. I saw a post that said in 2008, Reddit started with a simple worldwide Secret Santa. And in 2021, we are now taking over Wall Street. And boy, how times have changed that this simple platform has built itself into a metaphorical spear for influence. I think what we're seeing is communities like this hold a lot more power than I think people realized. And in this example, David versus Goliath, I think David probably had a little bit more power than he realized.
For a subreddit that went from 500,000 users to 6 million users in just a few days, yeah, it's become an influential community for sure. So for everybody at home, remember, Diamond Hands, hold on to your Gamestop, and tune in next week when we are hopefully talking about the end of everything that's happened, some financial regulation, and everybody else on the Wall Street side can move on, and hopefully a bunch of amazing stories tied into deep fucking value saying you can finally sell and take that money, make yourselves better other lives, donate to charity, something like that. And we'll get back to all the memes and interesting topics that Reddit is known for.
The only set of losers next week, these hedge funds, and let's be realistic here, guys, GameStop. When everybody sells, they're going to lose it all. Thank you guys so much for listening this week. As always, we are so appreciative of everybody who listens to the show.
Thank you.
On top of that, last week's episode brought in an amazing amount of new listeners. So if you guys have stuck it out to this one, thank you all for joining us. We are a podcast that likes to talk about the daily happenings on Reddit, talking about fun stories, inspirational stories, everything in between. We're all over the internet as well, not just here. Scott, where can people find us?
You can find us on our Insta at
Sub for that.
You can find us on our Twitter at
Sub the number 4 that.
You can send us an electronic mail at
Sub for that podcast at gmail.com.
And if you want to tell us how incredibly wrong we were with all of our financial information gleaning this week, you can reach out on our personal Twitters at Scott Gurrola and
WildMN293.
And remember, no matter what you're into,
whether it's God tier superpowers,
farming,
Dogecoin,
or fast workers, there's a sub for that. There's a sub for that. Hey, Willie, have you ever been fishing before?
Oh, God, yes. And man, fishing blows.
I used to like it a lot, but it always kind of depended on what you would catch because, there's good eating and then there's bad eating.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of fish did you catch back in the day?
We used to fish in lakes by the Boundary Waters, and we would catch a lot of walleye. That's what we were going for, because, man, does that grill up real nice.
Absolutely. Some of the best eating you'll probably do up here in the north. You know what fish I don't like?
Huh.
It's a big annoying fish, I think. And people who interact with them or come in contact with them usually don't come away all for the better. But the marlin, I would say, is probably one of the worst fish out there.
I would probably, if I saw a marlin, I'd throw that shit in the trash.
Yeah. And if we ever caught a marlin, I think we would certainly not hesitate to immediately throw it away.
You know what's the best part of current technology, Scott?
What's that?
The stuff does it all for you. So when you're on that boat and you're looking at that little screen and it's like, hey, I know what's there. That's a marlin. You don't want that shit. I'll handle it for you. Move along. That's what I would do.
Amen.